So the patient underwent a exploratory laparotomy. He had resection of the mass with a resection of the vena cava. Arterial ND, we had to pass the ICC with pericardium. And also we removed the adrenal. You can see the pathology there. So poorly differentiated carcinoma consistent with collecting duct. Margins are negative. 2 out of 9 lymph nodes are positive. The mass was 6 centimeters in size. Dr. Gao, what's next?
I would still favor adjuvant therapy.
So you favor adjuvant therapy with?
I mean, he has disease in the lymph nodes, so that means the future recurrence rate is almost 100%. So I would give him chemotherapy again, since I think his blood is okay.
Dr. Spear?
I would follow close surveillance.
Close surveillance, Dr. Nassim?
I think it makes a really interesting point about these collecting the tumors being what is thought to be similar to urothelial. So, but I think the current standard would be close surveillance. So,
surveillance. So 1 chemo, 3 watch. Okay. Well, ultimately, we did watch this patient, and he did recur in the supraclavicular lymph nodes, and he was referred to Dr. Tenier for further systemic therapy, and I guess currently is doing okay. Let's move on. So, 51-year-old Jehovah's Witness presents with elevated LFTs. Past surgical history and remarkable. Past medical history is hypertension and cholesterol. Labs are within normal limits. CT chest is negative. And just to be uninitiated, Jehovah's Witness people typically don't allow blood transfusions. They don't allow their blood to be outside of the body. It has to always be connected through some sort of circuit, and makes for some challenging times during surgery. So, Dr. Nassim, tell me what you see.
So there appears to be a locally advanced tumor in the right kidney. I think there's a tumor thrombus also. That kidney does not appear to be salvageable based on these images. On the left side, there is a exfiltrated tumor in the medial upper fold.
Okay, so again, just to show the audience, there's a locally advanced tumor involving the right kidney with extension into the renal vein and into the IVC. There's tumor thrombus right there. And then on the left side, there's a tumor sticking out of the upper portion medially of the left kidney. So, Serena, give me your thought. How would you manage this patient? What would your counseling be? And how would you take this patient to the operating?
So between the two lesions, the right side is the one that's more immediately threatening, both in terms of potential for progression locally and metastatic. My experience with Jehovah's Witnesses is that they come in different flavors, so to speak, and sometimes they are very prone to societal pressures in terms of their own society. So I try to have a private conversation with them about how strict of a Jehovah's Witness they really are, because sometimes they will say, if push comes to shove and it's life-threatening and they need blood, they'll actually will accept it if they don't have that societal pressure immediately next to them. So I think that's an important conversation. But either way, surgery is really the primary it's the only potential cure. So we will talk to them about that. If they still don't accept blood transfusions, there are some measures we can take, including using a cell saver, which means that blood we suction up remains in circuit and then get filtered and give it back to the patient. And it would be high risk for needing blood transfusion with that right-sided procedure. So my recommendation ultimately would be, taking all those steps ahead of time, doing a staged procedure with the right radical nephrectomy, IVC tumor thrombectomy. See the patient back probably, month, maybe even 3 months to restage them. And if there's no evidence of metastatic disease, do a left partial nephrectomy.
No role for doing both at the same time?
Do not like to generally, not unless the other side is also highly threatening. I think the risk of renal failure is very high in those cases.
Okay. Anyone have any different thoughts about that?
Just anything in that level there, but there's a little slope that is elevated because of the tumor in the kidney. So basically,
probably elevated because of the anti-cholesterol drug, but in any event. Anybody have any different thoughts about this? So right side first, which we did. We used cell saver. We had 100 cc blood loss. And then in delayed fashion, we did a left partial nephrectomy, 50 cc blood loss. Cell saver was used both times. Any role for adjuvant therapy in this patient? Is there any medicine that we can give him to decrease his risk of recurrence? I'm assuming by silence that means no.
No, I mean, unless the trial. She can take it here, she can also take the trial.
Clinical trial, okay.
Which can be SNST as well.
ICD, what is that?
SNST as well, because
would anyone consider neoadjuvant therapy to try and shrink the tumor and make the surgery easier?
No, I would not.
Sorry?
I don't think so.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
Nice one.
91-year-old African American gentleman presents with lower urinary tract symptoms and dysuria. Past history of hypertension, a remote history of seizures. You can see the medicines he's taking. Good performance status. He's younger, looks much younger than his stated age. EGFR of 70. So basically his kidney function is good for someone 91 years of age. CT chest is negative. And you can see he's got this rather large cyst in the left kidney that does not enhance. There's also a hyperdense cyst, which is a cyst filled with protein or whole blood that does not enhance. And then he's got this lesion present in the lower portion of his right kidney. You can see it a little bit better here. Again, very large cyst present in the left kidney. So, 91-year-old guy was younger than his stated age, got a mass in the lower pole of his right kidney and a huge cyst in the left kidney. I want to take this on his arm. What would you do?
I think I would observe.
You'd observe him. Any role for biopsy?
Biopsy, if you're going to do something, if you're not going to operate on 91-year-old, you could observe them for a short time and see if this grows. Increases the size. What is the estimation of the size of this?
What's that mean?
The size is a borderline when you consider small renal mass, and management of the small renal mass, even in younger people, includes active surveillance. And if you want to do a biopsy, you could do biopsy and do ablation, or you could do prostatectomy. But somebody who's 91, I think any of those interventions are not without their complications. And I'm not sure this is going to increase the survival. And of course, something that I will observe.
How long can you get scanned?
6 months.
Okay. JJ, what are your thoughts?
What is the cause of the dysuria? Is it caused by the upstream measures, or is it just, infection or anything?
No, it's just a big prostate.
Okay. Yeah, in that case, I would agree with Nizar. At age 91, if you do anything, you potentially can cause more harm than benefit.
So you would observe?
Right.
Okay. Dr. Mateen?
No, I actually looked at the issue of age, and used a large database, and basically the only thing that age predicted by itself was a longer hospital stay. That's probably related to support, their ability to get support at home. The issue with being older is that the older you get, the more comorbidities or coexistent medical conditions you have. And what really determines the likelihood of complications are the comorbidities, not age. And actually there's been several other studies and other specialties that have looked at this and with the same conclusions. So I think the issue of physiologic age is important. And this patient physiologically probably is younger, better kidney function than I have. And with a 4-centimeter tumor, I would actually give him the option of definitive treatment with either like a robotic partial or possibly biopsy followed by ablation. If by chance he wasn't interested in surgery, then I would at least try to do a biopsy before making a determination. It's fairly hypervascular, heterogeneous in its appearance, so I would be concerned about a clear cell, possibly a clear cell type, would be more aggressive.
So he says, whatever you say, Doc, that's what I'll do.
Yeah, I would offer treatment.
So you'd offer treatment, and that treatment would be?
Partial.
Partial nephrectomy, okay, Eric?
I do differential renal function to see how much the left contributes. I would offer him a biopsy perhaps to confirm what this is and think about perhaps thermal ablation versus partial. This guy, the alternative would be to do a short interval follow-up imaging study to see whether this thing's changing at any reasonable rate of growth, and that would also partly define whether or not this, the aggressivity. You could do a short interval follow-up scan and things doesn't budge, then that would actually decrease the risk of this actually being something dangerous.
So what do you do?
I would do differential renal function, and I would suggest that we would intervene.
So we did do a biopsy, and the biopsy came back as clear cell kidney cancer. 4-centimeter mass. Again, does that change anyone's mind? Dr. Dow, does that change your mind? Still want to watch it?
Well, of course, I will have a very candid discussion with him. Patient preference, especially at his age, is very important. Some people will say, I don't want to do anything. So if it's up to me, if I were at his age, I probably will be leaning towards doing nothing at this time, except, getting close imaging at this time, maybe in 3 months instead of in 6 months, to see how fast this tumor grows.
So 3 months, the tumor hasn't changed. What are you going to do?
I would continue to observe.
Every 3 months?
Yeah.
So basically you're treating the tumor with radiation from CAT scans?
But the PET scan is not that high. You can, after 2 or 3 CT scans, if everything is stable, then you can expand to every 6 months instead of every 3 months.
All right, Dr. Tenier, does this change anything in your thoughts?
No, but actually, we just decide to let patients make a decision as well. So if the patient wants intervention, then actually what Serena mentioned, now that we know it is clear cell, not say oncocytoma or some other benign etiology, then the option would be partial or ablation, and both intervention modalities are appropriate. So it's the patient who drives the decision. If the patient, as JJ mentioned, does not want to be operate on or have any procedure, I think it's reasonable to follow them. 91, again, even if we did surgery, are we increasing substantially the survival? I don't know. If we intervene, are we going to make it live to be 100? I don't know. So that's why I think I'm fine with observation if it's okay with the patient and family.
You said whatever you want to do. So you observe.
I would observe.
Okay, Tony, you already told me you take it out.
Well, I think, percutaneous ablation is not unreasonable either. The thing is with that size and the fact that it looked a bit central, the results with that are not quite as good. But I think it's still a reasonable option. The only thing, and I think, Eric made some good points, the only thing about a nuclear renogram is with a distorted kidney like what you have on the left side, the reading can be very skewed. So it's not a bad option, but you just have to look at the results with a grain of salt.
Eric, does this change your mind? So you still observe? Or you do something? You do something?
I'd want to intervene.
Okay.
Yeah. 91, we're probably frequently about being 91.
That's true. My only issue with ablation here is that with these lower pole tumors that are medial is your ureteral injury. Because the ablation zone has to go out beyond the confines of the tumor, and sitting right here next to the tumor is the ureter. Sometimes you can put up a catheter and irrigate cold saline to prevent it from getting injured, but I've had a couple of patients that have had ureteral injuries as a consequence of getting ablated with a lower pole tumor. But anyway, what we did was we did do a partial nephrectomy. What I did know was that even though the guy was younger than his stated age, his kidney was definitely 91 years old. So she was very, very friable, very difficult to sew, but ultimately we were successful. It was a T1D grade 3, and he had a postoperative urine leak that was managed conservatively and ultimately resolved. Okay, let's move on.
Can you give us the block? Is he still alive?
Yes.
How old is he now?
I think he's like 93 or 94. Thanks me every time he comes to clinic for saving his life.
showing success story. If he had some complications, not that you have ever had any complications, it would be a different discussion.
That's true. But I mean, he actually is very pro do something.
No, absolutely. I mean, like I said, the decisions are driven by patients. If he wanted intervention, he would intervene.
Now, I mean, I'm not sure I agree completely with that. I mean, certainly you take the patient's wishes into consideration, but you don't offer something that's not indicated just because they want it, right? All right, so 43-year-old white male with right flank pain and gross hematuria or blood in the urine. Also seeking weight loss. No significant past medical or surgical history. Chest CT shows bilateral pulmonary nodules. Bone scan and MRI of the brain are negative. Got some anemia, low blood count. LDH is normal. Calcium is normal. Platelets and white blood cell count are normal. So you can see here here's the lung CT. Here's the nodule right here in the left lung. Here's a rather large nodule here in the right lung, also a nodule here. A couple of nodules here. And then he's got this locally advanced tumor involving his right kidney with extension into the renal pelvis. You can see again, this is another picture of it here, locally advanced tumor. So let's start with Eric. How would you manage this patient?
I would do lastly, I would send him to JJ's trial to do his clear cell.
So biopsy to demonstrate clear cell and you can run a clinical trial, and if you were practicing out in the community, how would you feel?
I would send him for nephrectomy. Probably, let's see, it's a bit of a weird-looking mass, so I would probably still biopsy it first, because I want to exclude some sort of the variant histology.
And if the biopsy showed, let's say, clear cell, you send it for surgery?
The surgery, yeah, surgery first, thyroidectomy, nephrectomy, followed by systemic therapy.
Suppose it's a papillary?
I would then have a conversation with the patient and say it's not as clear whether the nephrectomy would prolong survival, and we could initiate systemic therapy first, because it's not a particularly large renal mass.
Okay. And if it were clear cell, you did the biopsy, they had their surgery, what systemic therapy would you offer?
Well, if it's in the community, the standards of care would be sunitinib or pazopanib as a frontline setting in the frontline setting.
Okay. Swear, what are your thoughts?
I think clinical trial is always a good option to offer. We do have one that, regardless of histology, he'd be a candidate for, which is the cryoablation, or the tremelimumab with or without. The idea here is to patients like this who have a metastasis that we can ablate, do percutaneous cryoablation. We do the percutaneous cryoablation and then follow it up with immunotherapy, checkpoint blockade. The idea there is on several lines of research that have been done. When we do cryoablation, we're basically revving up the immune system. And then with the addition of the immune checkpoint blockade, you're essentially releasing the brakes from that immune system. So the idea is to really rev up the body's ability to fight the cancer. So we're testing that with this clinical trial. And the CPU that has one of the smaller metastasis in the lung is amenable, I think, to cryo. And the thing about that trial is that it's 2 months of treatment and then they still go to surgery for thyroidectomy nephrectomy, which I think the patient, whatever they do, they should have that done at some point. So,
okay,
yeah, I like the idea of a biopsy. If it's clear cell enrollment on the trial, JJ is leading the 2013-0715, which is what randomization to one of the arms, either nivolumab alone or nivolumab plus bevacizumab or nivolumab plus ipilimumab, as you showed. If it is a variant histology, since he has flank pain and gross hematuria, I would not treat him with systemic therapy. I would send him to you, Rosalina, to do the surgery, and then post-operatively we'll treat him with systemic therapy.
So what would that be?
I mean, if he's papillary, we have a trial that's coming up. It's an international study with boletinib. It's MET inhibitor, pure MET inhibitor versus sunitinib. So I encourage him to enroll on it in the trial because there's really no established therapy for variant histologies, obviously.
And if you're in the community, what would you offer?
Sunitinib.
Okay. How about IL-2?
Well, I'm talking about non-clear cell. IL-2 is not therapy for non-clear cell.
So if it's clear cell nephrectomy, would you offer an IL-2?
Yes, it's what we do. Yeah, if he doesn't have access to enrollment on the trial of JJ, the one with the checkpoint inhibitor pre-surgery, before the nephrectomy, then we'll do the nephrectomy and then post-operatively after recovery, I can discuss with him. I'll discuss with him IL-2.
And just out of curiosity, what do you tell patients to do the mortality rate is associated with cytopenia?
Close to 0% now. In the past, it used to be up to 4%. But now it's close to 0%. We have not lost any patients in more than 12, 13 years.
JJ, any different thoughts?
Yeah, apparently it's very young. So despite the fact that there is lots of enthusiasm about target therapy, immune checkpoint therapy, we cannot forget about high-dose IL-2 because if you treat 100 patients, 6 or 7 of them can be cured. So that's actually a very high percentage, especially in younger patients with younger children. So I will definitely talk to him about that. And it appears, if he has good organ function, that would be something to consider. Otherwise, all the other therapies discussed by Nizar, Serena, and Eric will be good as well.
Okay, so just to summarize, in the community, probably upfront nephrectomy plus or minus the biopsy beforehand, followed by sunitinib or pazopanib. Here in the Harrison, we also have the luxury of several clinical trials that potentially could be offered to this patient. So again, we considered nephrectomy, so what's clear cell with focal rhabdoid differentiation. He shows modest progression on postoperative films. What would you do now? So you want to comment on rhabdoid? What does that mean?
All this means is that it's a high-grade disease. It doesn't mean anything is focused, so it doesn't really change. It's still clear cell, so it's the most common histology. Since you elected to do a prostatectomy as anticipated some progression in the lungs, I believe, so if his lungs is still good, I would offer him IL-2 because we're talking about, figure anything now. or LMS. Now, if he declines the Michael's R2, or then I think, he can decrease the indication, he can say, all that you locally, it doesn't want motivation to from the antics to what the software would be options.
Which one would you choose?
I think students in 2 weeks, 1 week enough, as Eric mentioned earlier, about the software, and look at the other things. There are some cases where I would choose maybe students in over the software, and there will be some cases where I would choose the software over students in. Without going through the details right now, we can discuss that later.
Where and when?
I mean, with the patient and look at the list of meds he's on, and I think there will be some nuances that can be that can sway one drug or the other.
Okay. JJ?
Yeah, I mean, other than what Nizar talked about, if he has measurable tumors, he can be a good candidate for clinical trials as well.
Okay, so, as part of my geriatric practice, 83-year-old physics professor presents with right flank pain, gross hematuria. He's got some medical problems: hypertension, coronary artery disease, carotid stenosis, hypercholesterolemia, aortic stenosis, hypothyroidism, and complete heart block with a left bundle branch block. He has a pacemaker. He takes aspirin and some other medications. CT of the chest is negative. So, to move along here, he's got a locally advanced tumor involving his right kidney. Here you can see it in cross-section. So, 82 years old, local medical problems, has a pacemaker. How would you manage this? Let's start off with Eric.
I would get him off his anticoagulants for a moment and do a biopsy to figure out what this really has, because it's really still an unusual looking tumor.
So, you don't want this anticoagulation and biopsy, okay? Dr. Mateen?
Chest and negative.
Negative.
Get him medically cleared and do an nephrectomy.
You're going to would you do it open, wow?
It's a little hard to tell, but it doesn't look like it's invading the bowel at all, because there's not much of a frame visible there. I would look at that. But
It's not invading the bowel.
yeah, so I would do a lot of stuff.
Laparoscopic nephrectomy, okay? Would you do nose dissection?
Again, can't tell which above the venous chamber there. Yeah, since I don't see anything, I'm going
Yeah, well, again, pain, affecting the tumor is causing symptoms and also hematuria. So surgery will solve both problems. So I would go for surgery.
So we got one biopsy and 3 surgeries. Patient underwent radical nephrectomy with RPLD. He had C3A disease with invasion into the renal vein as well as into the sinus tract. We recommended surveillance post-op, and he was without evidence of disease for 2 years. His CT of the chest remains negative. But 2 years out from surgery, he comes in, and he has this. And you can see it here too. So, Dr. Mateen, what are your thoughts?
did you say the adrenal? Because of the adrenal function?
We did.
Yeah.
You let it what? Essentially, left the adrenal in place.
So, yeah, I'm guessing it's adrenal metastasis presenting 2 years later.
Okay. What do you want to do?
If he has no other evidence of metastatic disease, I would do surgery. I'd do laparoscopic adrenalectomy.
Laparoscopic adrenalectomy after laparoscopic nephrectomy?
Yeah, that's separate.
Okay. Would you approach it transabdominally or go to the respiratory hill first?
If you go trans, there's really, at that point, the respiratory hill is obliterated, so you go trans.
Okay. Anyone have any other ideas? Would anyone do a biopsy? No. Adrenalectomy? Dr. Gal?
I agree.
You agree? Okay. Dr. Ross?
I'd also have a conversation with my interventional radiologist to see whether or not speaking something, but
Embolism versus systemic removal needs to do. Any work for systemic therapy? Either before or after surgery?
no.
Okay. So yeah, right radical adrenalectomy, which showed metastatic renal cell carcinoma. What now? Surveillance. How often would you surveil? 4 to 6 months. Every 4 to 6 months. Everyone agree with that? Okay. He was surveilled over time, and then he comes back 8 months later. CT scan of the chest again remains negative. Dr. Mateen, what do you see?
Looks like he's got a contralateral adrenal metastasis there.
So he's got a lesion present in the left adrenal gland.